If you've played nylon string guitar, you likely have done at least a little bit of dabbling in flamenco. And in flamenco, especially traditional flamenco, there's a certain type of a rhythm that you almost never see in other styles of music. And it only occurs on two specific techniques within the flamenco style. In this lesson, I want to show you how to wrap your brain around this rhythm, how to do it correctly with these two different techniques, and just as importantly, how not to do it. Okay, I'm going to start out with rasgueo technique, which is when we hit our nails against the strings. I'm going to start by going pinky down, ring finger down, middle finger down, and then index up, all in a row like that, and see if you can tell the difference between these two instantiations of a 5-stroke rasgueo. Here's from a form called Soleá. Okay, now I'm going to play an example with those same 5 strokes over the rhythm of tientos. Okay, did you notice the difference? One was a quintuplet, one wasn't. And what is the difference really? Well, I said the technique is exactly the same. I'm going down with my pinky, ring, middle, index, up for an even group of 5. But if we play 5 and we let the last one ring out, it's not a quintuplet. So what a quintuplet really is like a triplet. We're taking a beat and dividing it into an equal number of parts. So you might have a septuplet or a sextuplet. We see triplets all the time. This one, like I said, is much more rare, a quintuplet. We're taking a beat and dividing it into 5 equal parts. So in the Soleá example, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and immediately went to the next beat. So we really didn't know truly that it was a quintuplet until I played the next beat, and that told us how short the last of those 5 notes was. But in the tientos example, I went and let it ring out. So that really is 4 30-second notes into a longer note in the case of tientos. So weirdly enough, it's what happens after the quintuplet which tells us if it really was a quintuplet or not. So let's work on this. Now let's use the form Farruca, which is a very easy to understand flamenco form, I think, rhythmically speaking. So we're going to start with an E7 chord and go to A minor. And we have a little melody in here. We're going to play B, open B, then to C sharp, then to D, open B again, inside of our strumming like this. Then to A minor, we'll play 1, 2, and then here we might do a 4-stroke, but we'll see we're going to do something else in a second. You guessed it, a quintuplet. So now try this. So what's happening there is we have 4 beats on the measure, and on the second beat, we're dividing the beat into 5 equal quintuplets. Those would be 16th note quintuplets. So to count that, we would say 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I haven't heard a really satisfying way to count quintuplets, so I just think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're really not going to count it though when it comes right down to it, but we could say 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 and 4, and a lot of numbers there. But when you get this choppy, there's a certain choppiness to quintuplets. They sound like they kind of cut against the grain of the beat a little bit. So the real trick here to doing a correct quintuplet is what happens after, like I said. So it's really, instead of 5, it's 6, strangely enough. So we're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then get into the next beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we're not going to count to 6 because that 6th stroke is really the beginning of the next beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down. It really has, like I said, choppiness. Ba, 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 bum. So if I went like this, that wasn't a quintuplet because the 5th stroke didn't get cut off and wasn't as short as all the other ones, but rather I let it ring out. Hey, that example from Farruca is from my course, The Ultimate Nylon String Guitar Guide. I have a great Farruca study where we're working on 4-stroke rasgueo without the pinky, the 5-stroke like I just demonstrated, and a bunch of other techniques. So I put that Farruca study together just so that you could work on those techniques. Plus there's a bunch of other great stuff in there. We work on romanza, malagueña, a tango, all kinds of great stuff. And if you check out my free workshop below, at the end of that, I show you how you can get that complete course with an irresistible bonus. The only thing harder than doing a proper quintuplet is doing 2 of them in a row, and that's actually something that we see quite a bit. Check this out. Okay, what happened there is we had 2 quintuplets in a row, and when I start that, for some reason, you know, it's the pinky's the hardest finger for everybody, for both hands, and it's so weak on the right hand that we don't use it at all, except for this quintuplet rasgueo, and the more traditional 4-stroke where we go down, 4 strokes like that without coming up. So we're starting with the weak finger, the pinky. So we have to go pinky, ring, middle, index, up, and then do pinky again. But I find that at the beginning, I don't know, not really sure why, but when there's two quintuplets in a row, like what I just did, I like to flick my pinky first. I really can't do it on the second one. I know people do that. It's hard to get your pinky back tucked into your thumb on the second go around, I think. But starting like this, I'm really bringing this in here, and that helps me really get going on a double quintuplet like this, give myself some propulsion, at least at the very beginning of that sequence. For the second time, I don't do it. Would be great if we could do it both times. I just did it right there, but when you're going at a faster tempo, I find that very hard to do, so I just don't do it. But you don't have to do that. I like that, and it really keeps us from accidentally coming out too soft or maybe a little bit at the wrong time with your pinky, it being a weak finger, like I said. But let's leave all that aside, and I'm just going 1, 2, 3. So we're following this 12-beat form, this Soleá por Bulerías thing. We see it in Bulerías also, Alegrías, and some other forms, Soleá, like we did earlier. But what's happening here is it's kind of the reason that there's two quintuplets in a row here, I would say, is that we're stuck with a certain accent pattern. So the accent here is on the 3, so we go 1, 2, 3. So it just works out that we have the first beat and the second beat, which is a perfect opportunity to do a quintuplet and another one, but not do it on the 3, because if we did a quintuplet over the third beat, it would really obscure the accent there. We want to like have a nice landing spot where we pound on that third beat. And if we did that for every single beat, we wouldn't really hear an accent. It would be a big mess. So that's why at the end of what I played a minute ago, I only did one quintuplet and another one separated like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, those quintuplets there were just before the accent, not on the accent. To practice this in a little nutshell, like I said earlier, I think the best way to do it is just to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then immediately do a sixth one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Call that a sextuplet if you want. And since we weren't allowed to let anything ring out there because I was blocking the strings, it really is a group of 6, but it doesn't have the feel of a sextuplet. So weirdly, this is a rhythm that we see quite a lot in traditional flamenco, but it only happens when we do rasgueos and tremolo. You may already know classical tremolo is a thumb, ring, middle, index, one of the main ways to play tremolo. And that gives us a group of 4. But legend has it that Ramon Montoya just kind of inserted this PI thing that we do so often in Spanish guitar into the traditional 4-stroke classical tremolo, and it gave us a quintuplet, and that is what flamenco tremolo is, a quintuplet, adding a note to that sequence. So instead of going thumb, ring, middle, index, as we would in classical tremolo, we go thumb, index, ring, middle, index. But there's a pitfall here. It's very easy to go, and then to separate those, to go 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Want to do them all evenly, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But just like we're talking about with the rasgueo, if we wait right there, which isn't the end of the world if you're playing in a free time, we might on purpose go and kind of let things ring out. Wouldn't want to do it all the time. Very often we wait after the thumb even. We want to go. So again, that's not really a quintuplet. If we want a really exact quintuplet, we would have to be rigidly going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try it. So a great exercise for this is on one string, going thumb, index, ring, middle, index. And if you plant, that's when we get to the string ahead of time, you can hear, if you're planting, which is not the case in so many other techniques, thumb, and then I immediately plant with my index finger. I'm going to play the index finger, immediately kill it with the ring, and I'm back going to that same sequence, P-I-A-M-I. Now you're never ever going to see what I'm about to show you, at least I've never seen it, but what would it sound like and feel like if we combine these two things together? A 5-stroke rasgueo, a quintuplet rasgueo. And by the way, quintuplet isn't really necessarily the same thing as a 5-stroke, right? Like I've been saying in this whole lesson. But let's do flamenco tremolo and then our quintuplet rasgueo, and then flamenco tremolo, quintuplet rasgueo, all continuously without stopping. Let's see what that would sound like. I'm going to play an A minor add 9 right here. We're going to start with 5 strokes and then the 5 strokes of the tremolo. Feels pretty weird, feels pretty horrible, but I love to combine things like that that shouldn't be combined, because why not do that? I think anytime we can up the ante on something like that, then when we play the normal thing, we're a lot better at it. And I think quintuplets in general are a great thing to practice. Even if you're not into flamenco or you don't really care about quintuplets, if you get good at counting those and rendering those with different techniques, whatever they are, not just tremolo and rasgueo, I think you're going to have just a heightened rhythmic awareness for everything else that you play. So I hope that helps you play better quintuplets, and if you're interested in the tremolo technique, check out this video where I really go into that, kind of do a deep dive on the different ways to play tremolo, and absolutely check out my free workshop in the details below.